thousands of farmers are committing suicide because of their inability to pay interest.
A grim reminder of the appalling conditions of the farmers in this agriculture-dominated country. Farmer suicide in the country from 1997 to 2007 now totals to 1,82,936, according to a National Crime Records Bureau report published in 2007. It is the largest wave of suicides in history. A whopping 16,632 cases of suicides by farmers, including 2,369 women, were reported across the country in 2007. One of the most industrialized and so-called developed state like Maharashtra, retaining the dubious distinction of having the largest number of farmer suicide. In 2007 alone, more than 4,000 farmers have committed suicide in the state. Since 1995, farmer suicide in Maharashtra has crossed the 40,000 mark. The NCRB said besides Maharashtra, 6 other states have recorded over 1,000 cases of farmer suicide each in 2007. Maharashtra, where the central government pitched in with a special package, reported 4,238 suicides in 2007. Karnataka 2,135, Andhra Pradesh 1,797, Chhattisgarh 1,593, Madhya Pradesh 1,263, Kerala 1,263, and West Bengal 1,102 followed Maharashtra in the list. These states were in the top 7 list in 2006 too. Of these, Maharashtra alone accounted for over 38%. In Vidarbha region of Maharashtra, more than half of those who committed suicide were between the age of 20 to 45, their most productive years. Nearly 2.8 million of the 3.2 million cotton farmers are defaulters now. Most suicide cases relate to those farming families which have run up huge debts, as they are unable to pay the loans borrowed from banks and loan sharks. Crop failures in this situation therefore leaves farmers with debts they are unable to pay and are then hounded by recovery agents. If the banks wouldn't have lent money to the farmers as partners or investors, and not as lenders, then the scenario would have been totally different. The suicide rate would have been much less or nil, as farmers would have not have to fear or face any pressure of being crushed by debt. As many people are unable to pay the loan, their assets are going to the rich from the poor, and the gap between the rich and the poor goes on increasing.
Taking the risk of loss and the schedule of payment into accounts, and businessmen's borrowing on interest keeps a higher margin of profit than he would without interest. Often this results in a huge unfair burden at the expenses of consumers and buyers.
When the cost of the product increases, the demand of the product, except for conspicuous and high-income society goods, decreases, and when the demand decreases, the production decreases, and then the employment also decreases gradually. The decrease in employment in turn leads to low welfare of the people. Ultimately, it is the general public who suffer for the want of welfare. By this we can easily understand how the interest is having an impact on the final price of the commodity and is affecting the society at large. Only one person is taking loan, but the whole society ends up paying for it. Quran verily says, "That which you give in interest so that it may be an increase in other people's property will not be an increase with Allah." Let's take, for example, a factory which makes fertilizers takes a loan of rupees 2 crores to start the factory. So in the first stage, the interest amount was included in the manufacturing cost. Then they opened inventory rooms, so in the second stage, the banker collected its interest. In the fertilizing industry, gas is used, and gas industry is also working on interest. Thus, at the third stage, the banker collects its interest. The factory also needs fuel or power to run the factory. As even this industry runs on interest, the banker collects its interest at the fourth stage. The employees, especially the management side, working in the factory, are given many benefits like luxury cars, houses, electronic items, all of which are on lease. By this, the banker collects interest at the fifth stage. The gunny bags which carry the fertilizer is being outsourced to another factory which runs on loan. By this, the banker collects interest at the sixth stage. When the fertilizer is transported to the market, again the banker collects interest at the seventh stage from the transporter, as his vehicles are purchased on loan. If we take into consideration the wholesaler and the retailer, then many things will be included. Thus, we will skip the wholesaler and the retailer and take the fertilizer to the farmer. Please note that till now only one need of the farmer is satisfied, and that is the fertilizer. Now the farmer needs pesticides, seeds, tractor, fuel, tube well, and some other harvesting equipment. So there are 7 commodities which a farmer requires, and in this all the commodities are going through the same process. So if we multiply 7 with 7, then it is after 49 times of interest the cotton are produced. Now this cotton will be transported to the ginning factory. The ginning factory has also taken a loan, so another level of interest gets added at this stage. From the ginning factory goes to the textile sector. In the textile sector, it will have 4 to 5 processes. Spinning will happen, cloth will be made, finishing, dyeing, and printing. After this, again it will be transported and then come to the market. Then again, interest will be collected in another 6 levels. So after paying interest at 55 levels, we are wearing our clothes. If we assume that the interest rate is 10%, then it means that we have paid 550% of interest only on our clothes, and only one need is satisfied. We still need wheat, water, sugar, salt, medicine, stationery, a vehicle, fuel, and power. These are 10 basic necessities which we need. If we multiply this 550 by 10, we get 5,500. This 5,500% of interest is a burden on even the poorest person in the society. As the interest amount is included in the cost price, the selling price increases, and at the end, it is you and me, the final consumers, who are paying for it. The happiness of many people is diluted, and peace is threatened by the interest-based financial system that has affected our families, businesses, and nations. But the sad part is that most of them do not care about it. If interest is not prohibited, then selfishness and greed of the rich and powerful tends to cause it to dominate and deprive humanity of dignity and freedom, as well as peace and justice.